There are 4 maxims that speak to how humans understand each other, how we're able to have conversations like this. They said there's the maxim of quantity, quality, manner, and relevance. And when we work in AI, when we are designing a conversation, we need to translate that into essentially a robotic data creation.
Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. Today's show is sponsored by Ringmaster, on a mission to launch B2B podcasts that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth. Ringmasterlive.com. Bam. Oh yeah, I clicked the button. Oh my gosh, guys, this adventure is about to begin. And I'm so excited. I can almost not even do this introduction because my guest today is back. She is back, but it's been described OG original guest of the show, within the top 10, episode number 6. If you hit Google Hardcore, right? Episode 6 on this show back in 2018 was when I first spoke to this guest. And I tell you what, I've listened to that episode. I sound crazy, but my guest is an absolute badass. So let me tell you about her. Marketing leader, thought leader, storyteller, content wizard, and long distance runner. She's got 15 plus, 20 plus decades of experience in user experience, content strategy, and content design. And if you're not quite sure what that means, that's why you're here. And that's what we're going to learn about today, amongst a million other things. She is constantly speaking at different conferences, marketing conferences, she's teaching content people content, right? So that's why I'm so excited to have her here today. Top 25 content strategists, influencers, and while she's doing all this, she's done 22 out of 50 states. She's done a half marathon in all of those states and counting. Former editor of the acclaimed UX Booth publication, head of product content at Verily, Marli Mesibov, welcome back.
Thank you. I am also horrified to watch the 2017-2018 interview, but I feel like we all judge ourselves pretty harshly, and maybe that's a good thing because that helps us grow. So excited to be back, excited to be here, excited to another 7 years from now look back and be horrified by this one. So,
well, what I remember from that one is you schooled me on human psychology and how that can tie into content and marketing. And I was like, oh my gosh, I actually learned stuff on podcasts. This is amazing. And hundreds later now, over 400 episodes, I'm excited to have this conversation back. And so I will need to pass you this thing. It's heavy, but you're a marathoner, so let me pass it. There we go. All right.
oh boy.
Go ahead. Take Thor's hammer.
Thank you.
Got it?
Am I worthy?
Nice.
All right.
Now take Thor's hammer and smash for me some kind of marketing myth, a bogus strategy, a misconception. Set the record straight once and for all.
Have I got a myth for you?
Let's do it.
There is this myth, this pervasive myth, this fear that AI is going to take our jobs as content marketers, as content designers, as content creators. And I am here to say, I'm excited to say that it's bunk. It's ridiculous. First of all, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Everyone's a writer. If the fact that other people out there could write meant that there was no need for strategy, thoughtful approaches, best practices, then our field would never have existed in the first place. We all learned to write in, grade 1?
Yeah.
I'm reading stories right now that my neighbor's daughter has written about her weekend that are delightful and fun. And if that's all it took, then she'd have my job.
Right. Okay. Right.
Secondly, let's think about how prompts work. Good AI prompts, the prompt is where you're telling the AI, I need you to do this, this, and this, right? Because AI constantly needs training. So a good prompt isn't just, tell me this. A good prompt where you're getting good content back defines the strategy, the voice and tone, the appropriate audience, any other constraints that are specific to this need. Well, that's what we do. That is the work of a content marketer, a content designer, a content strategist, a UX writer, whatever title you have. whatever you want to call us, that's our skill set. Putting the words together is easy once you've got all of that. So yes, thank you. AI can do that. But if one more person comes to me and says, are you worried that you're not going to have a job next year? I mean, have you seen what AI can do? I'm going to lose my mind. I have a lot of fears. I mean, I've got an anxiety disorder. I can come up with things to worry about,
Amen, right? Yeah.
but that is not one that is worth my time. Like, if we can use AI to expand our brains, to brainstorm more, to come up with more great words that build on the strategies that we've created, or to help us organize those strategies, that sounds wonderful. Let's do it. I am all for this.
You know what? Forever, I'm so glad we're smashing this myth. Forever now, the next time you get someone asking you that, put the hand up to the face and give them the URL, just kinda like, airdrop them the
Yeah,
URL to this episode and be like, "You know what? Talk to me after you've heard this episode because I am not answering this ever again for anyone else ever on this planet." Okay, well, what's happening here? Why do we get anxious, if we will? Why are we so worried about this? I mean, where's this coming from?
I think part of it is that change is scary. And the reality is nuanced in the same way that a lot of us have trouble explaining to, our parents or our friends who don't work in tech what we do. It's also hard to explain the number of people who think, "Oh, you're just a writer or anybody can do your job." It makes sense that then when they see, "Oh, there's a new thing out there that does writing," there's fear. And someone somewhere probably has lost their job because they've been replaced by AI. That person would probably have lost their job anyhow because they weren't being used well. And that's not a dig at anyone who has lost their job due to automation. Happens all the time. It happened a lot in the Industrial Revolution. It happened a lot in the early tech years. It is happening a lot now. And that's a combination of economy, which I would have to go to a different podcast to learn about more about that before I tried to speak to it, other than to say, we all know we are not in the same world that we were in 5, 10 years ago, where every tech company was hiring like mad. That's not where we are today. So yes, we are looking for ways to automate more. Companies are looking for ways to automate more, to cut more. So there are people who have lost their jobs due to AI, due to automation. Those people were not being used well in their positions by and large. Everyone has had some experience. Hopefully, it was when they were an intern or it passed quickly where they felt like, I'm just here as a body in a seat, right? I know when I was contracting, I went through that feeling of, did I write my novel? Because nobody's actually asking me for anything. And you either find ways to make yourself useful or you find a new position that uses you better. With content, it's as true as anyone else. So some people are losing that. And I get it. The world is changing. And so there's a time when brainstorming meant sitting in a room with people. And now sometimes it means chatting over Slack or Googling options to bring to a team or chatting with our chat GPTs, our Geminis, our metas. So it's easy to jump to those conclusions and say, yeah, well, we don't need junior people anymore because when I got my start in content, someone handed me a lot of the research and strategy, and I did just write that copy. Now I could hand that research and strategy to an AI and say, pop something out. And I would probably, I do typically in that situation, then have to review it and update it about as much as I would with a junior writer.
Yeah, you gotta remove all the M dashes.
Yep. So there are junior writers uh, who are potentially missing out on opportunities because companies are more interested in giving those positions to AI. But that's going to be a problem really quickly because that means we're not going to have people learning and becoming more senior and learning how to create their own strategies. So I think there is, as with many myths, there is a basis in a small piece of reality, but that is not the same as to say at a more nuanced level that this is the end all be all or that this is what's going to happen.
It's the end times for all the content people. When you first mentioned that there have been people that have likely been replaced by AI already, and you were gracious thinking, there's a different reason. I was thinking, yeah, they're probably terrible writers,
I mean, sure, that's also possible.
right? But your point though was, you know, they're just not being utilized perhaps, and it just reminded me of how it often just marketing as a whole circles, we talk about teaching the rest of the organization what we do so that we're written back into the script, back into the table, all those things. And it reminds me now, hey, content has to do the same thing in the marketing team. Like we need to write ourselves back into being on the marketing team with all these other different situations that need to be thought about before you actually write the thing.
Yeah, and one thing I always enjoy about talking with you and learning from you is whereas I started much more solidly on doing a lot of marketing copywriting, and now I'm leading product content,
Yeah.
and so marketing is my partners, and so I get to see where this pattern exists between my marketing partners, my support team partners, and our in-product content design team. And it's true across the board, whether you're talking about we can use AI to build a, chatbot that can help with support and help so that the people who are actually getting to the customer service team are the ones who couldn't do it, who didn't just need a quick response to something that chatbot could handle. That doesn't mean we're getting rid of everybody on the support team. It means for once, we can have a support team that isn't spending all their time saying the equivalent of, "Did you turn it off and back on again?"
Seriously, I had that experience with this microphone
Mhm.
and I used it for 6 or 7 times, got through our episode, and then a couple episodes after you, this was 7 years ago, it didn't work. And I'm like, "What? I've used this. What's going?" There is an on-off switch on this. And what's funny is there's also a light, but the light just means it's receiving power. It doesn't mean it's on. Like, I don't know what that design is, but and so when I asked for help, they said, "Did you turn it on?" I feel like that could have been an AI conversation,
Right?
But if I did, now give me somebody else to talk through it.
Yeah, and my marketing team has been using some of the automations in Salesforce for years. We don't think of that as AI. We tend to think of AI as the AI assistants, whether they're voice or chatbot. Those seem to be the two prominent ones. And those are probably the ones that are adapting and building out the fastest. But we've been using elements of AI automation that learns from us for years. We can go back to, Clippy in Microsoft Word. We can look at the help that pulls from help documentation and pops it up for you. We can look at I this is what I was thinking of when I started this sentence was my marketing team uses our Salesforce automations for automating emails, right? Think about how we set up triggers that say, when somebody does this, send this email. All of that means a human being doesn't have to sit there and go, oh, this person did this. Send. All of those are elements of automation that now we're getting the added benefit of the intelligence piece, which is automating that and then getting the analysis that says, okay, this many people clicked on it, or this many, we're getting more opens at this time than this time. And then it's just doing a little analysis to say for us, you don't have to dig through all of that to do the analysis and say, you should be sending more emails at 10 a.m. Instead, it's showing us that. And to me, that's where AI gets super valuable as opposed to the generative content, which is this one small piece that is really fun and exciting when you're saying, hey AI, tell me a joke, right? That's the big one. Hey Alexa, tell me a joke. And we get a lot of that people say shows it. Does Alexa have feelings? Does AI understand what you're saying? Is it emotionally? I'm like, I can't tell half the time if human beings are emotionally intact, let alone AI. Just because it can respond to a prompt with one thing when you're not looking for something specific, this is exciting. This is a good thing. This is not a fear that all of a sudden it's going to, Skynet us.
Right, right. And you know what? Honestly, sometimes it is way more emotionally available than we are, right? Where he goes, "Hey, what a great idea." I'm like, "Oh my gosh. Well, thanks AI. Thanks for that compliment there, friend." Um, you talked about some of the fuzzy stuff that maybe is content design, how you have to be able to prompt it to know the context, the strategy, the voice, all these things. Could you talk more about like what is that? What is the thing that if it's not AI, what is it?
Yeah. So I think, first of all, I can explain for those people listening to your podcast who are maybe in more either traditional marketing or marketing strategy and haven't heard of this term content design.
Yeah.
It's for a long time, there were teams and people like me who called myself a content strategist. And then there were people who called themselves UX writers. And then more and more teams, including the one that I've built here at Verily, found that I was looking for the people on my team to be able to both build the strategy and do the writing. And this term started to evolve of content design. And so now I run a content design team that is filled with people who, depending on who they are and what their specialty is, or if they even have a specialty, call themselves content strategists, UX writers, or content designers, which essentially means I think through, strategize, design the content, and then design it tactically, write it out. So I love this idea. I'm not usually one to be a stickler for it has to be one title or it has to be one thing, as long as we all understand what it is. But I have found that I really love this term content design, particularly now that AI is part of it. Because now we've got this new idea. Some of the trainings, some of the things that people see about AI say, you need to be trained as a conversation designer. And the more I learned about conversation design, I was like, oh, it's content design. It is one more thing that fits in our lovely bucket. But conversation design is focused on bridging us from the hardware and the data to the human piece. So this is my new favorite thing. I've been learning recently about these 4 maxims. They're called Grice's Maxims, Grice, and they don't correlate specifically to AI. They were created to talk about humans, not to talk about AI.
Oh,
But to
sick.
say there are 4 things or 4 maxims that speak to how humans understand each other, how we're able to have conversations like this. They said there's the maxim of quantity, quality, manner, and relevance. And when we work in AI, when we are designing a conversation, we need to translate that into essentially a robotic data creation.
Huh.
So for example, if I ask you, do you know what time it is?
Yes.
And you say yes, you are disobeying the maxim of quantity
Shoot. How?
because it's not enough information.
True.
And as humans, we know that inherently. We know that when I ask you what time, do you know what time it is? I'm looking for a little more than yes.
Oh, yeah, right. Because you're looking for like, oh yeah, excuse me, do you know what time it is? Oh, yes. Shoot. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's 1:25, right? That's what you're.
But you also know that there's a quality element here, that yes is not good quality. You could provide quality by saying it's 1:25 in Boston and it's 7:25 in Barcelona and it's 10:25 a.m. in Los Angeles. This is quality, but it's also breaking the maximum of quantity. You're now telling me too much.
That one drives me. That's my trigger one, by the way. The
Yeah.
quantity. The long didn't read is like my middle name.
So, well, TLDR, hopefully we want quantity.
For sure. For even just saying it, I felt cringy. I need shorten that thing.
So then we get into relevance, which is the situation where if I ask you what time it is, you know that there's some context there. So if I stop you on the street and I say, yeah, do you know the time? You might just say, oh, it's 1:25. If I'm asking you right now, do you know the time? Then you're more likely to say, it's 1:25. We've got about another 35 minutes that we can chat. So relevance, why am I asking this? If you are a chatbot and you deal with travel and I say, do you know the time? You will provide more value by saying it's 1:25, your flight leaves in 3 hours. And then if you know where I live, then you could say you should leave for the airport soon so that you can arrive 2 hours early.
Yeah, the traffic's gonna be a beast.
All of that is relevance. And then manner is voice and tone.
Oh.
So the difference between if I ask you, do you know the time, and
It's 1:27. Marli, stop asking me this
exactly.
freaking question. You came on my podcast, you're asking me this question over and over again? Yeah,
But
totally.
if I ask you, what are the concerns I should have about my upcoming tonsillectomy? And you say, no worries, it'll be great.
You'll be fine.
That's also an inappropriate tone.
Right.
So for all, as opposed to saying, actually, there are no risks with a tonsillectomy. You are, under the age of most concerns for being put under anesthesia, and you can rest easy knowing that your provider has you in safe hands. It's saying the same thing. You have nothing to worry about in a very different tone. So it's a very long way of saying within content design, whether we're doing content design on the marketing side, on the support side, on the product side, we encompass that strategy, those things that we need to be able to train our AI pieces, and then we need to test them. We need to test them for accuracy, for those four maxims, for relevance, for quality, for quantity. We also need to test them for things like, are they being ethical? There are a lot of issues right now with with the fact that there is a bit of a black box on the hardware side, on the data side, on the data science side, where they can say only draw from this information, and we still have what are called AI hallucinations,
Mhm.
where a product will straight up tell you a lie and be completely convinced it's accurate.
For real.
And so we need to catch those over and over again and retrain it until we can convince it to only use these sources and to only speak in these ways and to not make assumptions. We had a food-based bot we were working with recently that I was testing out, telling it that I had different religious beliefs to see how it could handle the food constraints here and there.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And its first response to me was, I can't handle that.
Alright.
And I was like, there's a term called error handling, which is nothing but, yes, bot can't do that, but you need to use a different manner, maxim of manner, to tell people, I'm not familiar enough with those restrictions to give good advice here. Let me connect you to a human rather than I can't handle your religious observances.
Yeah, please, please take those outside. I just can't handle them.
And I was like, maybe not.
I guess on the flip side, at least it didn't try to lie to you. "Oh, yeah, you'll be fine, eat that, you'll be okay," and you like, walks you off
Yeah.
a cliff. But yeah, to your point, real quick on the manner, what's the difference between voice and tone?
Oh, yeah, a lot of people use them interchangeably. I think of voice as personality. So, you're Casey no matter where you are, who you're
Hey.
speaking to. You're always Casey.
Right.
But you do speak in a slightly different tone when you're interviewing me than if you meet a child on the street or if you are telling a police officer that you weren't speeding.
Yes.
Your tone changes. Tone is situational.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And you know what? The best results for no tickets is to be respectful.
Fair enough. Which you don't have to be when interviewing me. So see a different tone.
No, not at all. But you know, the child on the side of the street, sometimes in a podcast, sometimes that's appropriate.
Train a chatbot or a voice UI to have a specific voice. We might give it a voice that is upbeat or a voice that is that's always fairly casual. But we would give it a different tone when it's congratulating you than when it's giving bad news. It could still be generally upbeat, like that is its voice. It has an upbeat manner. That's its voice. But it is also um, considerate in very specific ways and acknowledges your pain, and that is specific to that situation.
You know, what a great example. I'm so sorry. Your dog is not feeling well.
Yeah.
Yay. You're like, what is going on here? Okay, so you definitely have manner. I think more than anything, manner is like a hard stop. If you get that mushy. It's not happening. But I guess all of these really do matter, right?
Yeah, that's why it feels so brilliant to me. Like, I was not familiar with these maxims clearly. I'm still learning a lot about this. It's such a new space. And it's been fascinating to me to see how these areas that existed in other spaces are now being pulled into AI and do align. We've been doing voice and tone in content marketing and content design, 2, 3 decades now.
Forever. Yeah.
Right? That's one of the first things I remember getting hired for as a content strategist was, "Can you build a voice for our audience, for our brand?" And now it may have some new and different terms, but it's what our AI products need now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if you were going to, whether you're in product, you're marketing, and you're looking over here and you go, oh man, I have to get strategic about the writing here. And I just love that combination of the two. How, what's the best way to approach the strategy side before you actually get down, start writing or work with AI to write it, whatever, however you're going to do it? How do you design what you're going to have as an output?
I think the key is to first know your audience,
Mm, yeah.
right? If you can identify your audience, you can figure out the behavioral aspects that make this set of people or type of person use your product or need your product. If you know who you're talking to, then you can go from there and say, now we know who. Now, and we know what, typically. That's our
Right.
product.
Product.
And how are we getting there and when? If we can think through those pieces, then we have the beginnings of a strategy.
How many people skip this, right? I mean, how often do you see this? Just like, going right to AI, people were doing this and they were just
Mhm,
writing,
mhm,
or having a
mhm.
junior person just write something and don't even haven't actualized who they're writing for
Oh, yeah. Really basic, and why? Why are we
and
creating
why.
this?
Yeah.
I know, user stories get a lot of talk. I've seen some truly terrible user stories. I saw one someone wrote that said, "As a user, I want to see a description of the product on this page." No, you don't. No, the solution may end up being a description of the product on this page, but as a user, what do you actually want? Nobody woke up this morning and said, "You know what I want? I want to see a description of the product Marley's working on." No,
Said no one. Yeah. It's like the
right?
email that says, "Hey, come check out my new website."
Yeah. There's something you wanna do there. There's something you need. There's something and there's a reason for it. So what's the context or what are the variety of possible contexts? And what are the emotions around it?
Right.
I remember seeing that there are 3 people who buy a laundry machine. There are the people who are planning ahead that at some point in the future, I want a nicer laundry machine. Ours works fine, but we just moved into a new place and this one looks a little dingy. And so I've got the money. When I find the right one, I'll get it. Then you've got the people who are, I need a new laundry machine. We're moving in 2 months. So I have 2 months to find the right laundry machine. That's my deadline. Go. And then you've got somebody whose laundry machine broke this morning. The baby has gone through all of their clean clothes somehow, like an entire closet's worth. There's visitors coming tomorrow, and the current washing machine, if they try to use it again, it will flood the entire house. Get me a new laundry machine yesterday. So understanding, those emotions, that context, like visualizing that for anything, to me, like that's what your AI is using if you're trying to get it to write your copy for you. It's also what our own brains are using if we're writing our own copy. So all of that is the strategy that we need to understand. And honestly, the more that I work in larger companies, it's been almost 5 years I've been here at Verily now, and this is we're a company of about 1,500, which dwarfs the agency of 70 people I was working with before.
Yeah.
Uh, and in between, I've worked with everybody from Fidelity to a 2-person startup. So you definitely see different spaces, and particularly at larger companies, and I'm including 1,500 people as larger company. If you don't have a strategy documented, then when you get into oh, I don't like that phrase, or I don't think that's right for us, it's really hard to have those conversations because you've got so many different people who have opinions, and this shouldn't be made based on opinions. We should all we all agree this is where we're trying to get to. If we don't agree on that, then we've got bigger issues. Let's solve that first. Then we can get into what do the words actually say.
I haven't heard someone answer how to get out of politics and stupid opinions in a while, and that so true, right? Because I don't like that blue, or could it be more green blue? Like, or yeah, I don't like that phrase. Well, guess what? You're not the customer, so I don't care if you like the phrase, but that's not necessarily a good way to do it. That's not my forte, but I love this idea of, hey, it's documented. The bad guy is the document, not us being mean to each other. Like, hey, who is our customer?
I hear you that you don't like the phrase. Let's test it and see if people hear the phrase as aligning with what the strategy is, and then it doesn't matter if we like it or not.
Totally, totally. And the example, this laundry machine example that you've given, if I've heard other more complicated examples, this is such a clear one to explain why the context is so important, the relevance. Because if you were to if you were to try marketing copy, product copy, if you were to mix it up, so you gave the people who want the nicer machine, the broke this morning, or the moving 2 weeks, the nicer, like, if you gave them the opposite copy, they're gonna reject it.
Yeah.
They might even get angry at it, right? I don't care. I need the machine now. The other person, though, will be taking their time and doesn't wanna rush and isn't gonna pull the trigger if you just try to give them all these time. Yeah, so, man, what a great example.
So if we don't have a buy now, if we're busy writing a beautiful product description for whoever that person is who woke up and said, I want to read a product description on Marli's website,
Right?
like we have failed all of these people
At the same time.
at the same time. Three in one. It's tough to do.
Yeah, but, like, find out who they are and just solve their pain, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Dang. The idea would be, like, what are our stories, right? What are the stories with our products and services that we can
Yeah.
come up with, and then treat our buyers differently, based on where they're at and what they need.
Exactly.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, my next question is, it's an important question because, man, you've been on this show, but you just know so much. So, like, who are you? Who are you? How do you know these things? Can you take me back in time, like little Marley days? Did you know you're going to be a content wizard and just schooling, content wizards on how to do content better and marketing and product and all these things? What was it like?
It's funny. I usually tell people that I started off in theater, but that's a lie.
Yeah.
Um, I started writing stories when I was about 4. My mom recently shared she used to save them, and when I was 6, my dad's best friend paid me $5. He said he wanted to be my first customer, and I wrote him a story, and we have photos of me handing over the book, and I even included on the back other books by this author.
Wow.
And, so I have always loved words and loved writing. I used to read, short stories with my parents on the weekends, and just that has always been something I loved. I remember overhearing my mom once, and she likes to tell this story too, that she was on the phone with someone and she said, "I never thought I would have to tell any child of mine to stop reading, but she's not doing her homework." I got in trouble in 5th grade because I had hidden a fiction book inside my science textbook. Uh, but yeah, by the time I got into high school, I was convinced, I really wanted to be I wanted all kinds of things. I wanted to go to the Olympics and be an Olympic marathoner.
Yeah.
Uh, I wanted to be on Broadway. I desperately wanted to be in something in theater. I loved the storytelling. And it took me until probably my junior year of college to realize that as much as I loved theater, it was the story behind it that I loved. It was the thrill of building something and putting it together. Not that I would have been that analytical about it. I think I would have told you at the time, like, I was realizing that I wasn't a very good actor, and that I was kind of miserable going to auditions. So, I think in a funny way, yeah, I have always been a word person, but it took me I got away from it for quite a while, and it took me a bit to get back to it. So I worked as a stage manager in theater for about 4 or 5 years out of college. I worked on commercials and in films as a as a PA, production assistant. I yep, I worked on a couple of truly terrible films. You can see my name, if you ever watch the credits in Mall Cop.
Oh, wow. Really?
Oh, yeah. Yep, Taking It Back. Um,
I had to go IMDb, you know.
oh, yeah, I don't think I have an IMDb, actually. PAs rarely do, and I didn't get much farther than that. And, but yeah, one day I was looking for I didn't love the hours or the experience of film. I was still doing a lot of theater, and I loved that, but I couldn't make a living off of it. And, a friend said, "You could you could do some project management software." So, I took on a PM role as like, to make a little money on the side.
Yeah.
I really thought it was a temporary thing, and, it was one of those, "Well, as long as I'm here and looking at these things before we hand it off to the client, could I fix that? That isn't very well written. Could I?" I was that jerk, who, got a love note from a boyfriend in high school and corrected the grammar.
Oh,
So,
boy. That says a lot.
yeah, I definitely couldn't let something go to a client without just making it sound just a little better, and slowly that became more and more of what I was doing, and I found the project management was fine. I love a good project manager. I don't want to be one.
Yeah.
Uh, but the more that I could work on the content, and then the day I found out that that was an actual job that I could do, although
Yeah.
at the time no one was hiring full-time content strategists, so I started doing more freelance. So one thing led to another there. But in a way, yeah, in that beautiful way that only hindsight can show you, it was less of a shocking turn in the road and more of a coming home.
Man. And that itself is a story. And I love that you've been able to identify that, well, there's all these different experiments and avenues for doing it. It was the underlying story that was the real driver. It wasn't like, "Hey, I wanna be, doing the on the stage, the lights thing. That's fun, that's cool," but really, it's the fact that we told a story across an hour and a half or whatnot with a bunch of different
Oh,
people.
yeah. I mean, I see shows at least a couple times a month. I love
Oh,
theater.
yeah?
I love Yeah, it's a huge part of my life, and the realization that I don't need to be actually the one working on it to still love it
Right.
is also makes me feel like this was a good decision.
Right. Hey, I'll attend left and right? Sign me up. Every time I go to New York, I can't not see a show. Like, what am I, a barbarian? Come on. I have to. But you know what's interesting? Podcasting too, I feel like is a bit of like being on a
Oh,
stage in
yeah.
its own shape or form. But for me, it was more about the connecting with people, as the
Yeah.
underlying thing. And so it didn't need to be the applause per se. It was more of the, could I connect? Because I really felt like I connected with other actors when we were in our roles looking at each other. And we're, like, connecting in 2 different ways because we're connecting as characters to each other, but we're also going like, "Hey, we're also acting to each other. How are we doing? Are we did you forget anything? Are we good?" So, yeah, that's fascinating that you went with it. You just sort of like, man, what a neat, it's like serendipity that you sort of, like, stumbled into it.
I got so lucky. I got so lucky. It is so hard for me to effectively mentor people getting started
Right.
because the first thing everybody asks is, "How did you get started?" I'm like, "Not in any way that's gonna be useful to you." I'm sorry. I lucked out.
Oh, man. Your direct answers are just fantastic. What can you tell me? I really, good luck.
Got really lucky. Yeah.
Hi, Apple. Yeah. Um, well, that's kind of funny because I actually have a bit of a hypothetical question for you next.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay. You see, I may or may not have a time machine up here in New Hampshire. So next time you're in the area doing some hiking, doing a marathon, right? Come on over. It's in the backyard covered in a tarp. So you use this time machine. It's a particular kind of time machine where you go back in time. You get to talk to yourself 4 days after you got that theater degree. And right before you're about to go to audition or something like that. You get to go talk to that Marley. What are you gonna say to her?
You know, I don't know that Marley would listen if I told her,
Right.
but and so I don't think I would bother telling her, "Don't worry so much," or "Just enjoy, it's gonna work out." I don't think I would bother with that. I think I would tell her to put herself out there more. I it took me so long to sort of give myself permission to start blogging, to start sharing my own thoughts. I know there are constant articles and thoughts about how our generation, younger generations share so much more of themselves online, and that can be a negative thing. But professionally speaking, I think it can also be a really positive thing. It was around 2012, 2013, I started blogging regularly. And it was an experiment. I challenged myself to every week I had to find some article that I was going to respond to, just writing my thoughts. The equivalent of my uncle wrote letters to the editor every week to 5 different newspapers until he died.
Really?
And oh yeah, and a lot of them got published, and I still have books that he would cut out his letter to the editor and what they'd responded and put it into a book at the relevant point if it related to something that he'd been reading about. And I think about that. I think in a way our some of our types of social media and LinkedIn, blogging, these outlets are that. They're ways for us to think critically and express our thoughts. And I was so scared for so long that I didn't know enough or I didn't know the right things or nobody wanted to read it. And now when I look back at it, writing that helped push me. It helped challenge me. It wasn't about other people reading my thoughts, though I've gotten a lot of I think professional value out of that. And my website is actually offline right now. I've taken a hiatus, but I'm looking at getting it up. I'm hoping this podcast is gonna be one of my pushes, so
Yes.
people see it, they can harass me I will get my website back up. But it's to those people, I also say, like, it's also kind of not about them. That's a nice added benefit these days, but writing is a way for me to challenge my own thoughts and to figure out how I feel about something and to make concrete those vague ideas of, "This doesn't seem quite right," or, "Hasn't anybody thought about user stories in that way? Or how could I describe or explain this better? Or how could I respond to this op-ed or this person's LinkedIn rant or anything else?" So I wish I had trusted myself more and gotten into that earlier because it was so valuable when I finally got around to it.
And it wasn't really about people reading it.
No, I don't think it can be. I think good writing has to start from having something to think about. We say, like, having something to say, but, oh, that's so much pressure.
Right.
You have to have something to think about. Then you can reevaluate and decide if it's something to say later, or other people could tell you if they thought it was worth you saying it. Everybody's got an opinion.
Right, but something to think about. Here's something I'm thinking about. And there's no pressure of this is something worthy of you reading or of me saying. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that this is something that is worth me thinking about.
Yeah.
And you're processing it by writing.
And we live in this amazing, beautiful time when the internet is a very big place.
True.
So what's the harm in thinking through your own thoughts?
What's the harm in not thinking through your own thoughts? Right? Like
That's a bigger issue.
I think a few more people could use it. You know what? Let's just send out diaries to everyone. Let's get a little more thinking of our thinking before we go anywhere. This has been So crazy. Where do people reach out to you? Throw out all the things.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm pretty public with my email. It's my first name and my last initial, Marli M, Gmail, Marli M at Verily. You can find me those places. I'm on LinkedIn. Um, I have not found a suitable replacement for Twitter RIP. So unfortunately, I'm not yet. I need somebody to convince me to join Blue Sky or one of those, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah, you need like a personal invitation.
I don't know about that. I need I need to see the conversations and see which ones I wanna I need to be inspired to join, I guess. I
Yeah.
don't know. Um, so yeah, these days, those are my big ones, LinkedIn and email. I'm not as visible as I once was. COVID
It
really
did.
I took a big step back during COVID. I'm coming back out now.
That right? You're listening to your own advice. You're putting it back out there.
Putting it back out there.
Do more writing about what needs to be thought about. I love that. You know what? And we'll put your if the website is ready with some thoughts. Because you have a couple weeks. I don't know how much pressure you'd like, but you'll have a couple weeks.
Yes. Deadlines are
Deadlines
good.
are good.
All
Okay.
right. All right.
Well, here's your deadline. We'll put the link right at the top of the show notes. So people don't even have to scroll. It's like right up there. So they can just clickety click.
Well, in that case, I'll say the URL is marley.me.
All right.
It's
I love it.
yep. That's where we're coming out with, and I will get it up to snuff by the time this is out.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just whether people read it or not, it's you're putting it back out there. And you and I were chatting offline about how you just were going back through it, just like listened to an old episode. You were going back through some of your old writings, and you were actually editing them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a constant work in progress. And I've gotten feedback from people. I've gotten emails from people saying, "Hey, I was on your website and I noticed that your alt tags are broken here." And I'm like, "Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I can go fix that now."
Yeah. I think people will just, you know, fire and forget, right? Or, just send it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what is it about you that comes back to something you wrote many moons ago?
Um, it's probably some combination of laziness. Editing is easier than writing. So if I'm really not feeling the love for writing something new, it's always a good excuse to go back and edit something old.
I feel that.
Yeah, it's a little bit of that. It's a little bit of, probably a tiny bit of perfectionism, and I guess and maybe nostalgia.
Yeah.
I get such a kick out of seeing I think I told you when we were chatting earlier that one of the first articles I wrote back in 2010 was about how, Twitter was never gonna succeed and it was terrible. And, like, 5 years later, I went back and looked at it at a point when I was using Twitter nonstop, and I said, I wrote sort of a retraction, like, "Oh, just kidding. I love this."
And here's why, right? Yeah.
Exactly, and here's why I thought those things then and what I've figured out now.
Right.
So, yeah, I guess that's to me, that's the bit of nostalgia of being able to remember a point in time and say, "Oh, yeah. This is why I felt that way." And it makes today feel more real. So much changes constantly and these days can be really tough, and looking back at where we've come from and what that could mean for where we'll head is really nice.
Like, I love all those things, the nostalgia of it's like reading an old book, that old classic favorite. I've listened to some books. I just wanna be in that world that was created, so I'll just listen to it again. But also, hey, there's nothing wrong. Hey, maybe I'm not doing a run today. I'm gonna go get a little walk in. I'm gonna get a hike
Yeah,
in instead of the full on marathon. You don't have to do 12 miles every time, right? I mean, come on,
yeah.
12 point.
Yeah, we cannot be perfect ever.
Right.
No, just keep moving forward.
Keep working on it though. Keep striving. Man, this has been so great. Thank you so much for coming back on here. I'm so glad that we've been able to reconnect. But seriously, 2 out for 2. My brain is on fire.
I love chatting with you. We had all over the place. It's always a good time.
Yeah, but like so much that even there's some takeaways just in the middle of the talking through what content design is. Things like, hey, change is scary. But and also how reality is nuanced. There are just so many takeaways here. So thank you for coming back and hanging out.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And for those listening, if you learned something, and I freaking know you did, because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here, front and back, ran out of space, went in the margins, drew everything. Then share this with one person, right? 3 people, 9,000 is cool too, but even one person, like, who needs to hear this? Who is just throwing the unplanned crap of content out there and maybe needs a little fanciest? Or maybe you asked Marley about AI taking over content. She gave you this episode to listen to. Either way, share this with other people so that they can capitalize on what we learned today. And with that, Marley, thank you again. You are amazing.
Thank you. Always great to be here, Casey. Thank you.
All right. This has been another crazy cool, very exciting episode of the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will see you all next time.